there's a little domino effect that I taught briefly in our last Impact seminar. And I'm going to bet that we don't do that great a job at remembering it, but maybe we will. But we teach it in our seminar that we're going to do starting August 10th. And it's a great domino effect that is seen in every family and in a lot of our relationships. And we're going to use it as part of the introduction to today's little sermon. Voluntary love. Does anybody remember this? Voluntary love is where you do something of your own free will. So let's say that Joe opened the door for Nancy this morning. Let's just say he did. And he did it voluntarily, of his own free will. Nobody made him do it. Nancy didn't lay a guilt trip on him. Joe just did it because he just felt like doing it. So we've talked about this before. Voluntary love is free, and the key attribute of voluntary love is that it is received with nothing but gratitude. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for going there. Thank you. It automatically will get gratitude. And then we say that voluntary love will digress in most relationships, unfortunately, on this earth. To, does anybody remember? Expectations. So now Nancy expects Joe to open the door every time they get in the car. And when Joe doesn't open the door, she's disappointed. Whereas before, this was free, flowing, full of love, no strings, no attachment, beautiful. And then it digresses in a lot of our relationships. We can see it, we'll see this pattern like it's somebody's read our mail into expectations. And expectations, a deeper way of saying it is that they now are unspoken, anybody know this next word? Promises. So expectations will digress into just a little more serious side of expectations, which is unspoken promises. Unspoken being key. Nancy's never said a word about how she feels about the door thing. But now she believes that Joe, by his knack of doing it on a regular basis, has sort of made a promise to her, an agreement to her, a relational contract on this issue to her. And so now when Joe doesn't do it, she's not just disappointed. He's a promise what? Breaker. And once you get to that spot, then you can see this whole thing is digressing to the pit of hell in no time, and it gets worse. So unspoken promises go to criticism, where now Nancy is, excuse us for picking on y'all, Nancy is, yeah, I know it. Nancy's now critical of that particular behavior. She's not critical of Joe as a person. She's critical of his politeness, his chivalry, his old school thinking. And so she's critical of that to him and brings that up to him, which of course he enjoys so much. When it all started right here, so nice. And it's going to get a lot worse. So criticism goes, can anybody remember the difference from the seminar? I'm testing you. Criticism is when Nancy criticizes what it is. You're not polite. I wish you would be more polite. That would mean a lot to me. That's a criticism. of a thing, a behavior, a particular thing, you can hit the bullseye on it. That looks like an angry eye. Okay, so you can hit the bullseye on criticism. You're criticizing a behavior or a thing or an event or an item. You're not criticizing the person, and the person might get defensive, but you're really not criticizing the person. Contempt is different. Contempt is when you take criticism and now Joe has a character flaw. It's character assassination. All Joe cares about is his own dang self. He's the most selfish human being I've ever met. So now we've gone from when Joe just smiling, he's eating donuts and blowing kisses, to now it's expectations, a promise breaker, criticism, contempt, negative interpretation. Put in plain Alabama language, Joe now can't do a dang thing right. It's not just the car opening the door. It's not only a character flaw that he's self-centered. He just can't do a dang thing right. So the whole world is colored. It's gone just completely to one color. Joe can't do a thing right. So everything Joe does will be spun to the negative. Well, he opened the door for me. He must want something. Well, he didn't open the door. He's a selfish clod. Well, he ordered first at the restaurant. He doesn't think anything about it but himself. Well, he let me order first, but that because he was lazy, hadn't even looked at the menu. Everything will spin to the negative and negative interpretation. He can't do a dang thing right, which will end with withdrawal, and you're emotionally shut down out of the relationship. Who in here has ever seen this pattern in life? I'll guarantee it's 100% if everybody's willing to raise their hand. So it's a tragedy, isn't it? It's a tragedy. It's human nature. So a sidebar, doesn't have anything to do with the sermon, is that if you see yourself in this pattern, wherever you are in this pattern, put both feet on the brakes, both of them, to where everybody's hitting their head on the windshield. Stop the car. If you need to go to counseling, go to counseling. If you just need to read a book, if you just need to go sit and talk, do it. Jump off this train. Jump off the train. You can jump off the train at any point if you're willing to and actually find a path back up to here. You can. And it can rejuvenate an entire relationship of gratitude. Once you get past this gratitude, all of this is demanding. Expectations all soured and green, demanding. And your world is going to be unmet, and you're going to be an unhappy person, possibly chronically unhappy. And there are people in this world that are chronically unhappy. There's nothing you can do to cheer them up. You can cheer them up for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, a day, but they are chronically unhappy. It's a condition that needs to be helped through therapy and through other things. And a chronically unhappy person is not a depressed person. Those are two separate diagnoses. Depression can be dealt with chemical balancing. Chronic unhappiness is a whole other condition that needs some deep roots pulled out that don't have anything to do with depression. Now, are most chronically unhappy people depressed? Probably, but it's two separate issues.